So thank you for coming out. I'd like to talk a little bit about the places I've been and the things that I've done, not because I'm terribly interesting, but because I think it'll give a little bit of context about what we're going to talk about today. I've worked in the services businesses, I've worked on the corporate side, and we've gone back and forth. So when I was about 11 years old, my uncle owned an ad agency in New York City, and he took me to lunch at the Roosevelt Hotel. And yes, he had 2 martinis and smoked Ken cigarettes, just like an admin you might expect. We went back to his office. There were these big windows looking out on 42nd Street, and there was the guy there wearing a white shirt, had jeans on, had his sneakers, and there were big drafting tables back in the day. He had his feet up there, and he was just looking out looking out the window. And my uncle's the boss. I expect him to at least look busy when my uncle walks by, but he doesn't. He just waves. My uncle waves back. So I said, Uncle Leonard, what's that guy do? He goes, oh, he's an art director. I was like, well, what's he doing? He goes, oh, he's conceptualizing. Fireworks went off in my little 11-year-old brain. I went, I want to be an art director. So I did go into advertising. I learned that there's a lot more than just looking out the window and conceptualizing. Worked for Ogilvy and Mather, worked for DDB Needham, worked for Hal Riney and Partners, did ads like this one at the Wall Street Journal for Lehman Brothers for real estate derivatives. I'll come back to that. I was sitting at my desk, and a photographer had sent a disc, and I popped it into my computer, and sight, sound, and motion came out. And I was like, how did they do that? And this is the very early days of interactive. So I got interested in that. So with my wife's blessing, I left the lucrative world of advertising, effectively cut my salary in half, and joined a scrappy little interactive group. We did projects like this one for KPMG, which interestingly was in Dallas. Remember these? Did these. Learned all about interactive and things like that. And a little bit after that time, ad agencies started getting interested in interactive. So I went back to Ogilvy and Mather. There was an interactive group, and there was also a direct group. Now the way it worked back then was the direct group would mail out brochures for like Jaguar, and 6 months later they would have results. Meanwhile, there's these scrappy bunch of kids down there on the computers, putting banners ad up for IBM, and then the following day we have results. So we're more direct than direct. There was a little bit of a conflict there. Went over to DDB Needham, where it was very, very inclusive. The CEO was very interested in getting people involved in interactive. So we would launch a product, we would drive people from the web to, from radio to the web, and they would sign up immediately. Very, very interesting. About that time, I had lunch with the ex-CTO of Ogilvy and Mather. And we were having lunch, and he literally on a lunch napkin drew 3 circles. He wrote strategy, technology, and creative. In the center, this is where the company is going to live. So it's a company called Silicon Valley Internet Partners. And he said, you'll be working with people from McKinsey, be working with people from Oracle, and we need creative people like yourself. We're going to deliver products better than anybody else. So I joined in a heartbeat. It was very interesting because we had 2 types of clients. We had Fortune 100 clients, and we also had 2 guys in a garage. So we were sort of digital arms dealers who went back and forth. And it was fantastic because I had a creative group that went from 2 people to about 180 people. And my role was regional creative officer. And it was interesting because it was 10 cities and 2 continents. So we learned a lot about getting better ideas faster. Excuse me. From there I went to Circuit City. I was creative director of Circuit City e-commerce. And Circuit City was an amazing company. We were very fortunate to have a retail establishment a quarter mile from the corporate office. So we were able to build something on Monday, go out, test it on Tuesday, come back on Wednesday, go back on Wednesday again, and just reiterate like that. And we came up with better ideas faster, and it was absolutely phenomenal. You're probably wondering if Circuit City is so fantastic, what happened to them? I will refer back to a company called Lehman Brothers that did something called real estate derivatives, which brought the entire economy down. Not much about that. From there I went to a company called Optaros. We did e-commerce consulting. One of our clients was called Rulala. And the insight that Rulala had was that people are at work, they shop between 12 and 1. And so what they came up with was the concept of flash sales. Flash sales just were between a single hour, limited product, and then sales. That allowed Rulala to go from startup to selling for several $1 million in 16 months. Worked for a company called Captech that did digital strategy for Fortune 100 companies. And then I had a friend who said, Bill, There's a company called RealPage in Dallas. And it's grown through acquisition. It's about 20 years old. It has about 68 different products that look like 68 different products. Would you be interested in coming and helping? And I was. And so I've been there about 2 years, and that's where I am now. And we have about 24 people in our group, and we are literally horizontal, and we're changing the entire company. So I think one of the best ways that we could start about talking about using customer insights is definition. And I'm fond of simple definitions. So strategy is simply deciding what to do. And the insight is discovering why to do something. You can make the argument deciding what not to do, but it's basically deciding what to do and discovering why to do something. So I'll tell you a little bit about the first time I did business in Dallas. I was working in New York. We had just opened an office in Dallas. I came down here. There was a 1-hour meeting with a new client. So we walked in, and for 50 minutes, 50, we talked about football. And for 5 minutes, we talked about the project that I'd flown halfway across the country for. And then the last 5 minutes, we talked about where to find the best barbecue in Dallas. So this was peculiar to me, right? So on the drive back with the general manager, I said, "So what happened back there?" And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "We talked about football for 50 minutes. And he goes, "Bill, you're in Texas. You're gonna need to talk about football. It's like we're about relationships here. You can't just do that New York thing and just jump into the business." So I was like, "But 50 minutes? He goes, let me give you a little trick." He goes, "How did the meeting start?" He goes, "Well, he said, how about them boys?" And I was like, "What was he talking about?" He goes, "Cowboys, Bill, Cowboys." It's like, "Okay, thank you." I was like, "Okay, so when he says, how about them boys?" You say, "How about them boys?" You're done. You've talked about football. So that's an insight. That's delivering a strategy. So my background is design. My background is user experience. And we're very fond of saying a better user experience leads to a better bottom line. That's fantastic, but we need to be more specific about that. It's true, but we need to be more specific. So I read a book a while ago called The Discipline of Market Leaders, and it gave us this amazing diagram. And when the book was written, it was the early days of Amazon, and he was putting forth the proposition that any company could be good in one, either customer intimacy, operational excellence, or product leadership. You would strive to be really good at two, but of course no company could be good at all three. Now, back then, Amazon was very good at customer intimacy. Operational excellence, not so much. They shipped everything else like anybody else. And product leadership, not at all, because they didn't have anything. Fast forward to today, they are very good at customer intimacy. They are very good at operational excellence. And with products like Amazon Web Services, they're very good at product leadership. So now they're probably going to be the first company on the planet that are very good. Takeaway for us is this is a very good lens to look at our business. And so we figure out where we are on this and then how we can increase it moving forward. So I mentioned that I built out this, not by myself, but we built out a UX group over the past 2 years. So what I've done is we look for 7 capabilities, and I call them capabilities very specifically because skills are what people walk through the door with. Capabilities are, well, what they're capable of learning. You want people to expand their skill set. So somebody might come in and index very well in like user research and interaction design and usability, but not so much in visual design and not so much in prototyping. But if you look at all 24 people in our group now, there's a lot of overlap and there's a lot of things. So we have the bench strength that we're able to execute all these things. But what's missing is a couple of very important things. There's no business analyst, there's no product owner. So this is very good for delivering a design strategy, but it's missing some things. Another thing that happens, and this is very interesting, and some of you will nod your heads if you're familiar with this, we're both saying strategy, but we mean different things. So design strategy focuses on providing a framework for developing design solutions that support a given product strategy. Whereas a product strategy, and I'm talking about digital products here, addresses the business model, roadmap, and prioritization of business requirements for a product. So if we're not clear about what product strategy means, our design insights invariably fail to hit the target. So quite simply, the crux of this is taking these two things and making them better together, moving them together. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. So here's the situation that design professionals typically encounter. So a business engages a design team to take on a design project, and the product strategy is already in place. In a worst case scenario, it's in place and it's not shared with the design team or the consulting company that's going to be doing the work, right? So, then product management gives the design team a set of business requirements they've derived from the business strategy and asks design to turn them into designs. This is what I call the make it pretty stage. And it's what's a lot is missing from the business value that we're able to derive. And then finally, a user researcher evaluates the usability and visual appeal of their design and suggests design improvements. So that's the design strategy. But there's this weird semi-permeable membrane in the middle by that white line where things don't get through. And what doesn't happen when you don't get through that is you don't answer, does this product support the user's needs and drive business results? There's a feeling that user experience is like the public defenders defending the user from the evil business, right? But it's not true. It's like we're trying to all do the business together. We say, how should we prioritize the business requirements our design must meet? And how does this digital initiative fit into the larger business context? If you're not answering all of those questions, you're not solving the design and product problem that needs to be solved. So the good news is there's plenty of blame to go around. Product owners say design's just tactical, not really that important, just make it pretty. But then on the other side of the equation, there's plenty of design professionals that are very content to just do the design strategy and leave it at that, and not learn about the business, and not learn about those opportunities that are out there. So here's something I learned early in my career, and it's actually been very helpful. So I call this the Design Practitioner's Guide to the Mysterious Language of Business. So the language of CEOs speak in terms of market size and market share. The language of VPs and line managers speak in terms of revenue and costs. And the language of directors speak in terms of features and function. Now, why is this important? Because if you speak the wrong language to somebody, they're not going to hear what you're saying. If I talk to our CEO about feature and function and a nice little squishy little navigation that slides out, he's not going to be as interested if I talk about a market opportunity that can help us increase market share and market size. So how do we go about using these customer insights to drive strategies? What basically needs to change? Well, clearly understand that the product strategy is not the same as design strategy. Develop a deep, comprehensive understanding of how design can drive business and success in these three areas: product leadership, operational excellence, customer intimacy. Plan your research to target product strategy questions rather than just design implementation questions. I'm not saying don't look at the design implementation questions, do that in addition to the product ones. And then finally, focus on synthesizing and communicating high-level strategic insights rather than just a detailed usability recommendations. So one of the ways that we can do this is applying new lenses to work streams. Now these work streams I have stolen straight up from the Project 202 website. I promise to return them right after the presentation, but I use them because they're very, very good. There is a good description of the work streams that we currently do in the design and product community. But as we're looking at these things, I'm encouraging you to put the lens of product leadership, operational excellence, and customer intimacy over these, and then also ensure that you're adding the product strategy to the work that we're doing. But not just the work streams, also the deliverables, also stolen from Project 202. But again, look at these deliverables that we're already doing, many of us are already doing, or our design teams are already doing, or the consulting company that you've hired are already doing, and look at this additional lens of looking through here. So why do we need design research to include strategic product questions? Some examples scrubbed for your convenience. So, a vendor management insight is, during a contextual interview, it was discovered that credentialing was a problem for vendors and property management companies. So credentialing is somebody, before they come on your property, they need a background check, they need to be licensed and bonded, or whatever it is. And one of the issues that came up was, gee, it's kind of a pain in the neck to be licensed and bonded all over the place. I wish there was one place that it was just centrally located that I'd be able to do it. So, some numbers. There's 8,000 property management companies, and they each have 571 vendors. I will do the math for you. That's 4,568,000. What if you charge them $100 a year? So you've done a contextual interview. You've got this interesting little nugget here about a market opportunity that is worth a large amount of money, hundreds of millions of dollars. That's not typically a design deliverable. But if you look at it a little bit differently, it becomes one. So a microchip company insight is, during a contextual interview, it was discovered that there were only 8 chip specifiers in the entire world for a specific microchip. Why is that important? Because the ad agency was well on their way to spending $10 million on print, television, and radio advertising to reach 8 people. Literally, the creative people went out, started talking to the people, and said, how do we reach all of you? And one of the engineers said, what do you mean all of you? Well, there's only 8 of us in the world. Light bulb went off, and they were able to actually save a whole lot of money and change the targeted campaign. Credit card company insight. During research for a credit card company, a participant responded, I see nothing but things with price tags, but I care about people, relationships, and experiences that give my life real meaning. Of course, the result was the priceless campaign. So how they went to market was completely different. So a financial advisor insight is during research for a financial advisor site, the stated direction was create a community to foster better working relationships with financial advisors and their clients. But when speaking with clients, it became clear that they would love to cut their advisors out of the equation for at least some of their accounts. The insight spawned the strategy for robo-investing with companies like Betterment that programmatically invest for you. They automatically just rebalance your portfolio, they tax optimize it, and they do it all with human intervention. So that's customer intimacy, that's operational excellence. So a moving company insight is a customer journey map revealed that getting an accurate estimate of what needs to move, what's involved with moving is painful for customers and moving companies. Customers couldn't estimate accurately, and sending an estimator out to the location was expensive and time-consuming. So there's a startup out in San Diego called Yembo that is leveraging artificial intelligence and the customer's phone that customers can now get highly accurate moving estimates in real time. So this is customer intimacy and also operational excellence. So customer stands on the phone, with their phone, they go around and it says that's an Ames chair, it weighs 125 pounds, it requires a box this size, and then it calculates everything and it tells you exactly what size truck you're going to need. So that's a great big improvement that came out of a customer insight. And finally, a consumer electronics company, consumer electronics retailers and manufacturers are spending millions of dollars on highly trained salespeople and expensive marketing materials, but in a contextual interview, it became glaringly obvious that customers don't trust stores or manufacturers. They trust the written review written for that 4K television written by Funky Chicken 72 from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, right? So the insight is that company could dial back expensive salespeople and marketing materials and spend more time on the online aspects of it. So as we look at a customer journey map, this is a traditional deliverable. And for those who are not familiar with a customer journey map, you're looking at what a customer is thinking, feeling, and doing as they go through a purchase, typically. And you're looking for points of delight, but you're also looking for pain points that have area of improvement. So as we do this, we'll be thinking about product leadership, operational excellence, customer intimacy, which is doesn't always come out in a customer journey map, and then also product strategy. You know, a lot of us do surveys, and you can get a lot out of a survey, but not everything. So there is some benefit to talking to actual customers. And for this particular example, they've already gone through the exercise of building a customer journey map, but yet there's still more to tease out, and I hope some of you got that. So we don't have to all report out. Let's go over the headlines here. So some of the things that we gave the customers at each of the table, you're relocating to a new area because of your job. 1,000 of your fellow employees will also be relocating. So that's something about market size and operational efficiency, because if you just have a one-off, you're just talking to one person, they have 999 of their friends that are also in the same position and are potential customers that you would not have gotten if you just did a survey. So you have a relocation budget of $10,000, which is really generous. You don't need that much. So there's share of wallet. You know, somebody's shopping for a sofa. It's like you got some extra money, you want a carpet, you can cross-sell, you can upsell. There's some other opportunities in there. So you've walked into a furniture store down the street, but you decided not to shop there because you don't want to talk to a salesperson. Well, there's some operational excellence. There's some digital efficiencies involved there with shopping online and how you serve that person with the good tools. So the online sofa selector helped you tremendously, but you could not share the results with anyone, and you wanted to share it with your sister and several coworkers who were also relocating. Well, operational excellence would allow you to do that. This is about customer intimacy. It's also about social proof. You know, people need social proof. When we use the example of a customer electronics store, you know, it's like they don't believe the vendor, they don't believe the store, they believe, you know, the person who's also a customer. So I was really upset that the driver refused to take the wrong sofa back when it was delivered. He said he only made deliveries, and then I had to call the office and schedule a pickup. Full hour on the phone with the XD Furniture to do that. Well, operational excellence, and also, perhaps a delivery confirmation before the thing ships, says your sofa's on its way and here's what it looks like, and you can pinpoint the problem before that happens. It's very expensive to ship something and then ship it back again. Why not just cut that completely out? And here's the thing, the sofa is really, really well made, much nicer than I was expecting what I saw online. After I got the correct sofa, I Googled it and I found out that it was the best one, top rated. Who knew? The website didn't tell me that. So product leadership, if you have it, talk about it. So maybe I'm a master of the obvious here, but my decades in this business, bringing these two things together, digital strategy and product strategy, and looking at through these three lenses of product leadership, operational excellence, and customer intimacy, is really the secret of success. You really find out amazing things and you're able to deliver real business value very, very quickly. So I'll leave you with a story. So how many people are familiar with Lloyd's of London? Okay. Huge insurance company, still in business now. What many people don't know is it started as a coffee shop in London. London was a port city. So what happened, Edward Lloyd had this coffee shop and a bunch of sailors came by, people in the shipping industry, and they sat there and they talked about coffee. And he learned a lot about that. But here's what he was able to do. He was able to have the insight to say, I've got some information about what it costs to ship something around this world, and also what are the dangers. So a captain would come in and say, don't go around the Cape of Good Hope now, too many storms, chance of Somali pirates over here, don't go there. But he had better information. So what he did was he set up something called listening posts. These were basically just people that were in different ports that were looking for information that they could bring back that were germane to underwriting the insurance costs of shipping, and then bring them back to his coffee shop. So what that allowed him to do is to build a global insurance company out of a coffee shop that is still in business hundreds of years later. So coffee shop to insurance company, it's not a logical loop unless you know the story of how somebody took customer insights and turned that into a strategy. Here's the interesting thing about that. So the captains, his ship captains, those are personas, right? These are the people that we're capturing. These are the work that we're already doing. Those listening posts, that's contextual interview. That's where we go out and we start talking to people and discovering little insights like you've done around these tables today. Shipping route optimization, those are the customer journey maps, and on and go. It's analogous for all the work that we're already doing. So the question that I ask you is, do you have the same opportunity? I think you do. How can your business start using customer insights to drive strategy? Thank you. How about them boys?